Alright folks, caster mode engage. Welcome to Bloodmoon Remastered. Team 1, in the blue trunks, we've got Bunions, Biff Matron, Skooma Enjoyer, and Weeble Knieble, I believe it is. Team 2, in the orange trunks, we've got Quiz, Nop, Lieutenant Morning Woofles, I believe it is. And then we've got, I am not Thomas. Apparently they're not Thomas, so the more you know. I just realized I forgot to change my fleet tag. I need to do that. Chat, why did you not remind me after the last game? How dare you? Anyways, let's cast some games here. If anyone's interested in casting games, I have a YouTube channel. I'm not sure if I linked that with Twitch for an easy click, but just, I will say, you know what, screw it. Actually, what am I doing? Because I could totally just post this here. It's my own stream. I can do what I want. All right, let me just collect the link here. There we are. Check out the NekoboyBlue YouTube. There you are. Yeah, it's in my socials. Excellent. Anyways, because chatters are allergic to scrolling down, you can click on that. That's my YouTube channel. I'm posting some videos there. I had some casted games from last... it was not last Saturday, but it was the one before that, the 11th of January, where we did some nice casted games. You can go watch those on YouTube. I just uploaded 3 of them today. It's some fun matches. Go check those out after this stream. Anyways, back onto this. We're going to see what we get out of some more experienced players. Again, all the concepts I talk about here are for pursuing, like, just the kind of, like, higher, like, more kind of versed, experienced side of Nebulous, where people are, they felt out their builds a little bit, they know generally, like, what they're trying to do, and see where they go with it. You can get away with some weird builds in the kind of the, I don't want to say bluer lobbies, because, like, some blue players are very good at the game and pick it up really fast, but if you're playing with new players, a lot of builds are very creatured, they're not very refined, a lot of the game is dictated by just, is there a frontline fleet that actually, you know, works, versus one that generally doesn't. If you play starter fleets, you'll have a good time. So, yeah. Anyways, that's a little bit of theoretical in here. We're going to see what a lobby with a lot of gold players can do to each other. There's a whole bunch of tracks dispersed across the map here. We can see that this is Bloodmoon. There is a neutral point across the entire map here. A, C, B. That is going to be the 3 neutrals. So you get 3 lanes of aggression. Neutrals are... sorry, not neutrals. Neutrals are in the middle. Naturals are the D points and the E points. Orange team gets E point. Blue team gets D point. Maybe they missile test it. Maybe they don't. We will find out how they do it. This is going to be the way that this is, like, well, played out, because we're seeing even distribution. They're not doing a one-side stack where you potentially stack for D point, C point, and B point, and then rotate like that. Instead, we're seeing a bit of neutral go across here. So we're going to see how these front lines get drawn and then where they develop from there. Because there's your rollout, and then there's, like, your follow-up afterwards, which is 2 very different things. Ooh. All right, let me just drink some water here. Everyone should do that as well. All right. So, first fleet we see here, Lieutenant Morningwood. Okay, I don't know why I thought it was Morning Woofle, but I think the Morning Woofle is funnier. Anyways, let's look at that lovely little backdrop here, yeah? Look at that. Woo! Little carrier that could. Anyways, this is a carrier, the Man's Revenge it's called. It has a whole bunch of bombers, as you would expect from the OSP. If I do the count right, that's 20 of them. If we take a look over here, a whole bunch of strike fighters, the Tiger Sharks. Very cool stuff. A couple of pikes for the scouting, and then some halberds as well for situational awareness. Nice little build there. They're going to do carrier stuff. I Am Not Thomas is running a pair of 450 Acellos. Pretty standard kit by the looks of this thing. They've got a golf ball jammer on the back for comms jamming, a bunch of Auroras on the side, has a Dazzler up top, bullseye on the chin. Not really too much to write home about here. It's just a good little pair of Acellos. Not the hugest fan of double Acello, because generally the box is checked by one of them, so you can get more tools and toys and fun variety with the second, like, Acello's worth of budget. But anyways. Nop up here is going to be running a 450 Broadsider with some T20 secondaries. Very good Daka off this. It's joined by another 450 Broadsider and, ooh, what is that on the back? What the? Ooh, that's an interesting little tech there. What is this thing? Lyrebird and a Warbler. Okay, so that is going to be comms jamming and radar jamming on those. So that's a cool little thing to see. We're seeing these are distributed, I believe, let's see. Yeah, one of them kind of neutral here watching C point, other one neutral here watching B point. So they're going to be providing Overwatch to T20 and also 450 to see off the enemy craft. We're going to see that they have got 1 little shuttle, 2 little shuttle, 3 little shuttles. So they've invested some of their points into frontline, some of their points into cap. Nice to see that mixture. Quiz, probably going to do some of the same thing. Oh, actually, 2 50s on this, C56s, still with those secondary T20s. And got the single arm launch system on there for some breadstick goodness or other stuff. They've got a plasma device over here, plasma broadside, very good with the 100 mil as well. 100 mil is eating good since you can skimp out a bit more on point defense since you got those new smaller mounts, so you can get like 6 T20s on a ship. Cool stuff. They've got themselves, again, one of these like just little handicappers. 1, 2, And then they've got a naked capper going towards, looks like the C point, and a naked capper going along with it. Really trying for that C point contestant. All right, let's take a look on the enemy team. What do they got? Biff Motron down here has got themselves a beam destroyer. They got flak on the wings with this thing, some Mark 64s on the top and bottom, defender on the chin there. Lacking a lock on this thing, which is a little bit of a problem because they can sometimes have aim issues to the beam. They've got a similar looking loadout down here, so this one's kind of near the D point. The previous one was up top here, trying to go towards C side. Let's see, they've now got a Sarissa device along with some Mark 64s. So really trying to go for a bunch of that Mark 64 DACA. We've also got this little Mark 62 gun brick here to accomplish various gun bricky things. A pair of them in that flight. Looks like it's going to have a good time up here. I believe that their final ship, yep, is going to be over here on the B point. So was this the... Ah, yes, that's their A capper they'd gone through, so miscounted on those. So a couple of cappers going off here and trying to do their stuff. That should be their fleet. Yep, just all little gun capper stuff along with the destroyers, so cap fleet. Bunions is going to be running their levy. Take a look at the internals. See, this thing has 10 bombers here. It's got a pair of Tantos, and then it's got a whole bunch of these C Tantos. If I had to guess, these are probably coil gun, but I could be wrong. Maybe these are illuminator. We don't quite know what these are. Rip the A capper, indeed. Yep, so let's take a look at the cap game before we continue. C point here is going to be kind of contested as there's a bunch of stuff going up to fight over that. A point here is handily cleaned up. Quiz running behind this with C-56 broadside guns is just going to shred through that little Corvette that could, or rather could not here, as it, well, the front half of it doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of what you get. Turns out 1,000 point asset beats like 300 point asset, the more you know. B point handily secured there, as it looks like OSP elected to go for this side for kind of like a bit of their strength, dedicating a whole bulker to it. Same could be said for ANS as they try and stack up the right side. We're getting a little bit of the NASCAR rotation, but still the battle line is being drawn as Nop down here has their guns ability to hit into Weeble up here. Weeble Knievel! Ooh, canter launcher on the back of that. That's kind of funny looking. Anyways, triple Vauxhall coming out here from Weeble, which is going to be a nice little cavalry fleet like we discussed. They have a backpack launcher there. Let's see what they got. They got some size 3 hybrids in this, 6 of them to be precise. What did they skimp on to afford all this? Ah, they skimped on damage control. That's what they skimped on. There is 4 teams and no restores. It is Vauxhall time, baby. I hope you don't get shot. Oh boy, yep. I've seen some Vauxhalls with internals, and these are certainly some of them. Usually your Vauxhall is just as empty after you've eaten the missiles, not before, so... Clearly putting a bunch of that budget into the backpack and hoping it works out. Lastly, for fleets, we got Skooma and Joyo over here. The lovely Khajiit man got a 450 package on this axe right here. Seeing a nice chunk of point defense on the wings as well. They're going for rebounds here instead of stone walls. And Sarissas. Okay, interesting. Defenders up top. Odd little mixture of point defense, but it is something. We see they've got another one here. So 2 Axfords and then 3 Vauxhalls. That is the ANS frontline presence on this side of the map. It is a thing. Yeah. It's a build. We're going to see how well it works. We get Rocket Flight over here who are currently running. It's like size 1s with one of these is going to be Hodge. One of these is going to be Wake. 2 of them is going to be Command. So paying a little bit of a premium for those SGM2s there in order to do some bombing. But they've also got some missiles to see off enemies. Thomas saying they can move on C, so thank you very much, Thomas. Nice to see you moving up here and telling your entire enemy team as well. Maybe it's a mind game, maybe not. We see some T-20 firing off here. That's going to be Bunions losing one of their Corvettes. So, C-cap was attempted and was found wanting. This is what happens when you move ships onto a cap, like I said, is a neutral, which means that anything that goes onto here is expected to be fired on in return. It is important to not throw away your ships early on like this. You can kind of get away with it on OSP because, like, little cappers like this thing is, check the internals. I think this is 86 points. Okay, probably more like 90. But yeah, it's dirt cheap. You can get onto a point and potentially get it. At the same time, if you die, you lose 90 points. Cannot be doing that as ANS, as these things are just by like nature of the whole being more expensive, more of a budget investment. And there's going to be a bunch of little screening assets like this thing that has the 450 and the T20s on it. So we'll see how the gunfight commences. Right. ANS's plan is to move up a 6,000 point blob here around this side of the map, trying to put pressure on, potentially opening up the C point here when they push onto this zone, and then maybe threatening down towards the E side. In turn, the OSP is moving to counter and return fire here. We see that Nop was getting shot up a little bit before, having some radar range issues. Watch as all those little dots go off there. They're firing off RPF, I believe, against little pike craft here, which is not something you want to lose, because if this thing has the EO pod, which it does, that is a 20-point ship. Very handy for getting scouting on the enemy, but at the same time, you have to make sure you don't lose that 20-point investment by walking near a frontline fleet. Seeing some shots come from down below there, I think it was. Yep, there we go. So Thomas deciding to invest in a bit of stuff over there. I know their name is not Thomas, but I'm going to call them Thomas, because clearly this is just a deception and a ruse that I've seen through. All right, so Quiz, knowing what the game is, they're going to be abandoning the A point over here. There's nothing contesting them. They've still left a little shuttle in reserve here in case they need to cap it or do some scouting and stuff like that. They're going to be contributing a little bit of Daka Daka into Rocket Flight over here, who is having a bad time. They're trying to use those SGM missiles with the HE shape to see if they can't pick off something or other. Unfortunately, these are just going to be firing into a bulk freighter with intact PD net, which should not find purchase. Or it maybe just does a weird little whiz by. I don't know why that was. I think that might have been desync. Anyways. Liner's going to be opening up here. This is why you do not run your ships into a neutral point unless you are absolutely confident that you will get it and hold it. This is a big investment on the ANS side. They're trying to secure this cap point. They've already bled 2 corvettes doing it. They might bleed a third one if this doesn't work. Yeah, this one's drifted off the point, so it's already just kind of wasted itself because it's going to get taxed by all this T-20. Looking down here, we see T-20s firing off against the dead one there, so that's going to be a big pain point. Yeah. That's probably going to be 3 dead corvettes in a second here, and they still do not get the C cap. If you are going to spend the things to get yourself a cap, you need to make sure you get that cap and hold it, because otherwise they're just going to be whiffing all this value. All right, some Typhoon missiles coming out here. These are some lovely HE frag types. We're going to see that there is a flight of bombers here, 8 of them with a whole shitload of rockets, and there's going to be a bunch of these Barracudas as well. Barracudas are going to be engaging, trying to screen for their bombers. This is why you want to run your escorting fighters surrounding your bombers. That way your bombers don't just get instantly booped. We do see that a bunch of the fighters there are able to trim out the missiles, but they do take some return fire in exchange for it. The bombers wisely pulling back there for a second. One of them did get injured. So there's a bunch of the SGMs being fired off from, I think it was, yeah, down here. This little guy, you just see he's got the VLS-2. Does he have anything left in there? He's got a couple, so yeah. They have 35 mil nose and gun pod. I believe so, yes. We take a look at this. They did pay the premium for that. That is an option you can do. I personally think the 20 mil nose gun is perfectly serviceable, but hey, here we are. Anyway, so we're going to see more of these guys are getting taxed here. There's Sarissa fire coming from over here. The little Sarissa brick is going to say nuh-uh as it just chips away at those fighters and gets some value. Bombers over here are posturing. These are set up to attack the enemy front line. The enemy front line is sitting this far back. If there was fighter screens up over here, I'd feel a little more confident, but the time it will take 4 fighter screens like we're seeing from Bunions, who is hiding like way far in the back here, by the time you load, launch, and get them all the way over here to posture and defend, it's going to be too late. You see 2 fighters are going to split off there. 2 bombers, rather. They're going to tax again. Another one of the light assets. This is, unfortunately, a bit of the thing that happens when the team does not coordinate itself correctly. All of these light assets are going to get bled down. OSP will get the light asset advantage and try and lever that. Typical Kudaloda because of a 35 flechette. Yeah, it's a very good, but the 20 mil is good enough is the big thing. Anyways, OSP going to be walking one of their little cap ships onto the A point here. I say A point, but that's just kind of the general catch-all term for the neutral. They're going to go for the C cap. What does ANS have to defend it? Answer is they've got some corvettes who are trying to get themselves into arc. They've got some fighters who are kind of lingering around here. They have size 1, and nothing else, so that's just size 1s there. So basically, OSP going to pay a little bit here. Yeah, they delay it. There's going to be a 450 salvo, but that's going to horribly overpen and miss this. These voxels need to be in position to threaten that. Otherwise, OSP is going to get themselves a 3rd cap and sit on it comfortably. So, a lot of people cheap out and run 20 mil, 35 mil gun pods. Yep, that's generally the loadout for Barracudas. It's just a very good, cost-effective one. You don't need to be too fancy with. Anyways, ANS managed to pay with 3 corvettes for a C point that they did not cap, and OSP is going to pay with 2 little shuttles here, which are dirt cheap, and yeah. They're not even moving this thing. That's how confident they are that it's just going to sit on the point and cap it. Anyways, another corvette going to be seen off here as Quiz is doing the right thing you do as Frontline. See, over here, you see Nop is kind of running, like, the cap role in a sense here. They're not really, like, running a full cap fleet. It's just a mixture of, like, Frontline and cap assets split across the 2 of them, so they have a couple corvettes. C-Cap goes through here. This was a tiny little shuttle, probably like 170 points, like we mentioned before. It is able to secure that cap point. That is a good purchase. It does this because the front line dictates where is the actual frontline area presence drawn, like we discussed with our points before. It is seeing off the various light assets that could threaten that cap point. Opportunity has been created here by the front line. It is capitalized on by the cap, and that is how basically you secure a point. Frontline engagement goes on here as Not Thomas is trying to engage against the Voxels. Voxels, in turn, are going to be firing off a bunch of their missiles. Just testing the waters with one. I'm going to be real, Chief. This is not what you want to do. One, they've got their nose pointed the wrong way, so they're going to be taking a bunch of shots in the broadside here that they really cannot afford to, because everything that they lose is permanent. You can, like, repair a bit, but that's going to be a bad time. 2, you're firing a bunch of hybrids against a pair of Ocellos. Just assume that those don't go through. Actually, they're just going to rock themselves. Didn't even need the Auroras. There we go. Rock PD, best PDs. It goes after a dead shuttle. Yippee. Yeah, don't be wasting your missiles like that. All right. So taking a look over here, we got Carnage Flight Airborne. They have got themselves a bunch of torpedoes. We're going to see a beam destroyer firing off here, doing the right thing, just flicking battle short down here to on state. You're going to try and do as much damage as you can against a asset that is worth more than you. As we see here, they're going to bleed out some of the restores, potentially kill off some of the drives and guns and stuff. You can repair this thing, but the beam is doing a lot of damage to it, so that means it's softened up for when the capitals engage. This is not the ideal situation to find yourself with a beam, because, again, it's like a very long open stretch there, and the beam has damage fall off, so, yeah. Beam is now going to get knocked out on this, kind of to be expected. The 450 and the 450 and the 100 mil is going to be booping right into the nose of this thing, because bow towards enemy, that's the first thing you hit. This destroyer will go the way of the dodo before too long, especially now that Quiz has moved over another bulker to help out Nop. Quiz and Nop doing the right thing, working together in tandem here as the frontline and kind of cap combo. Instead, ANS frontline, what is the ANS frontline doing? They have deathballed together for safety and protection because they're worried about bombers. There's 6k worth of stuff here projecting itself onto the C point. Now, let's do a quick moment to look at the map. Where is the 6k not? It is not anywhere else on the map. So if OSP is smart, they will decide to either try and halt this advance here and see if they cannot make the ANS side pay for it dearly, or they will move around to somewhere else on the map and try and get value, like Hot Rod Flight is doing right now, as we see a bunch of perch rocket pods trying to get into this destroyer. A couple of them are going to find purchase into the drive there. That is going to be a drive knockout. Stonewall does very well against perch rocket pods, so it is a tech to put that on your destroyers, but as, again, your choice. Bunch of SDM-2 is going to be trying to tax away at Hot Rod Flight here, as they will be going along with the Sarissas and seeing if they can't boop something. A couple of these are going off to the side. Not sure what the... They do have, like, the lock, I thought, but I guess they just were a little bit confused on that. Anyways, possibly, again, desync. Sometimes with craft, you get a little bit of a weird upset thing going on. So, yeah, CL's seriously mispositioned. Yep. So what we're seeing right now is CL's trying to take a frontline role. There's a shitload of 450 on the enemy team, and CLs are not really kitted for that because the CL range is 8 kilometers and 450 is up to, like, 11 or so. So if they end up trying to get into fisticuffs with a pair of Acellos over here, they're going to have a bad time. If they try and get into fisticuffs with a group of a group of bulk freighters over here, they're going to have a bad time. What are they good at doing? Killing everything else that's light on the map. If you're a CL player, you can try and take your triple CL, see if you can't put yourself in a position where you're still, like, reinforcing the Axfords like we see here, but you want to be looking around for something you could potentially jump on. Like, say there's a shuttle or something, there's a flight of bombers or fighters and stuff. You want to be trying to multi-roll and look for opportunities to aggress into. As we saw over there, the destroyer tried to walk out of cover, and, well, it kind of went the way that we expected. It is completely gutted and going to detonate its magazine in a bit. This is Quiz and, yeah, both of Quiz's bulkers here, so they're just kind of hanging out on this point. All right. ANS is committing their frontline onto going towards the C point. They are spending 3,000 points to move onto a cap point here. Is OSP going to let them do it? Maybe. What do they have to punish this? Quiz has over here a 250 and a plasma bulker. Can this thing unmask and do a whole bunch of plasma damage that's then followed up by 100 mil? Yes. The question is, how are they going to commit to doing it? Let's take a look on the backspace here. Nop has themselves a T20 and a 450 bulker that's just waiting for fireable tracks to kick off here. There's another bulker over here. They know where the enemy is pushing right now. They are losing a bit of this frontline fight, as the Juice Goose over here is definitely getting shot up more than it wants to. But now that they're engaged here, they are going to get shot from multiple angles. We're going to see Not Thomas over here is going to lock on their guns and try and fire with a crossfix. There's going to be Quiz, who's coming around the rock here with plasma, going to be trying to open up on them from close quarters combat. And in turn, these guys, because they moved on to the cap point and the ANS is not really in a position where they can afford to not contest somehow, they're going to be heavily punished for it. Again, OSP, they got themselves a 3 cap advantage. The enemy team was forced to play their move in initiative, which was a bad one, to try and cap a point with this. And they're basically just going to get shot for it. So, yeah. This crossfire is about to get nasty. You know what? Let's just watch some cinematics as this goes through, right? This is what it feels like to get shot by 3 fleets at once. Every angle is going to attack you. Now we see the cavalry fleet doing what it's supposed to. This ship here has unmasked itself. It is now about to eat all of the firepower from the Vauxhalls, who are still not really pointed the right way, but can get on target. They're going to start dakadacking into this thing, and that's going to do some serious work. This is a little more than 1k asset, and there's a lot of 250 there, so they need to make that happen. Anyways. We're going to see a bunch of flak rounds here going and taking out a bunch of these fighters. Have to be careful around these ships because there's a lot of ways that you can lose fighters. The Axfords here up top are going to be getting prettily toasted, so they will start to add up the kind of plasma damage over time. There's only one plasma device, though, so anything you see is going to be basically what you get. But here is the flick. The front line has committed, and let's watch what happens. That is how you support play. 10 out of 10. Well done. Enemy was forced into a unfavorable position. They were softened by plasma. The enemy front line was like, hey, I'm over here. Hey, I'm over here. This player has to commit to this point to try and get that cap. One thing they could have done is try and break off from the cap there, because they could have potentially like zoned out the stuff here and then allowed a Corvette to stay on it. Unfortunately, the Corvette was dead early on, because if there's nothing for the front lines to engage, they just shoot cap. And yeah, this thing is basically going to cook itself off here, because like all of its damage control is missing and it's dead. Yeah, that's fun. Beams are going out here, but that is a super long range beam. Like that's 6 kilometers. So yeah, they will tickle this thing's nose. They'll break the thrusters and red out a bunch of modules, but they're not going to full gray it. What's going to happen in turn is that 3k worth of gun is going to target onto like 6 or 7k worth of beam here that's just trying to run towards them and get value. So yeah, ANS knows they are losing and they need to make something desperate happen. The play is made here as a bunch of these torpedoes are fired off into the rock. That's unfortunate, but torpedoes are very effective against Aurora Max. You can see them getting purchased here. Nice stuff. They get a couple of good hits into the reactors and the various workshops here. So both of these ships are wounded. Are they going to be killed though? Can that destroyer make its way forwards far enough to actually effectively take these things out? Maybe yes, maybe no. Frontline engagement, support, swings. Another nice little swing this as we see, where is it? This thing trying to square off against the amount of like bulker against it. That's 3 bulkers. That is a lot. This thing has eaten some plasma damage now, so 100 mil is going to start biting through, hitting those important modules. We see up top, it's already getting smoked here. The front of the ship has been getting pretty thoroughly blasted. That's going to be a lot of its tankiness going away. Now it's going to start eating all of these to the gun pods, so that's just going to be it. Pretty much unable to fight back. Yeah. Just give it a little more cinematics. Look at that. Yay. I'm totally good with the camera, right, chat? Woo! Okay, that's actually really pretty. Anyways, just the top of the map look like a sombrero to anyone else, or am I just seeing that? What are they setting heading to? Good question. The ground, apparently. I think there's just a lack of heading micro there. So, Beam Destroyer over here is going to be having a lot of pain as still it's getting its beam constantly peppered at here. I am not Thomas. Can repair. There is not something quite in range to knock them out yet. We see that there was a lot of very good value as this thing's bulk mag is like brought down. And now this is how you do it. There you go. They figured out their shit. Now that the enemy point defense has been thoroughly taxed, the beams and stuff have done their work. We're going to see still some Auroras go off here, but they will not have the ability to battle short as readily as they might want, and they will also have some radar panel and other issues. If these things can stage and get purchased, you will see good missile hits. Oop, one swings and a miss there, but still, that is a lot of damage. Now it's on the CLs to play that cavalry roll, sweep over, kill off this frontline fleet, and then get themselves back in the game. ANS has paid dearly to get themselves that C-cap. They cost themselves a like 1,500 point Axford. They cost themselves a whole bunch of the Corvettes. But what did they do? They have thoroughly sandblasted I Am Not Thomas over here, and they're going to be having a rough go until they can like get into cover and repair all their stuff. You see this one is still just like taking a bit of a nap, but still has not been completely knocked out yet either, so that's interesting. Beams away. Woo! Honestly, this Beam Destroyer, I'm surprised it got away with the push that it did. Realistically, it shouldn't have. They should have just annihilated that with 450 HE, but I think they might have had a bit of target priority problems as they were trying to contribute to the big old 450 capital fight up top here, so little beam stung that could. Yeah, honestly, like, I want to see this thing at the end of the game. I am very impressed it has not died. Why are you shooting with AP rounds? Stop that, silly. Give it HE. It just needs to the nose. Anyways, here we go. Now it's starting to get taxed as Nop's going to move over the Spruce Goose and try and smack that thing. Let's take a look at the map. So, currently, Quiz has 1 and 2 bulkers just chilling here. Skooma and Joyer's on the other side with a mostly crippled Axford. The nose of it is missing, and these guns are just kind of... They're, like, not out of it, because Axford is really good repair, but they are hurt pretty bad. So, yeah. Beam DD lost drive instantly, so we look over here. It got shot in the flank by a bunch of rockets and stuff while we were not looking. And, yeah, that's one of the, oh shit, I'm getting attacked moments that a bunch of bombers will show up and relieve you with. This is good OSP container liner play. I say container liner, but it's like carrier liner. What do you want to call it? It's still the CLN. Yeah, they see an opportunity. They can swing a fight like this. This does not have enough point defense. It is going to get clobbered. This saves their front line here, because otherwise this thing would walk forward and smoke them. So, take a look at what the ANS carrier has been doing. Existing. Unfortunately, the ANS carrier has sat far too far in the back. They need to be forward enough to be nearby their front line so that they can quickly dispatch assets and then try and scout and screen and defend and all that. And the carrier back here instead has just been kind of, it's kept itself around, but like you need to be with your front line at a close enough distance, like I said, to project your forces at a timely manner. Because while you can sit in the like very far back of the map and like do your stuff, it comes with a serious disadvantage. As we see with the OSP carrier, they've got enough of their flights airborne and active that they're kind of getting away with this. but the Frontline has also moved up and advanced like to kind of their side of the map. We saw that the Beam Destroyer was over here. These guys are jockeying for position in the middle. I would say even the, like, if they had the chance to try and move this thing somewhere else, like see if you can't get it maybe a little bit more aggressive position so you can provide faster fire support, but yeah, CH unmasking against Plasma Liners point blank. This is going to see a whole bunch of plasma damage dealt, and this thing also has its aft towards the enemy. They're not bow tanking the way they're supposed to, so that's going to be a pain. The Beamstone did go down. Now crossfire happens as all the players coordinate their guns. Okay, as we see over here, I'm not Thomas because they were saved by that very nice rocket strike. They are now going to be firing in their guns into the top side up here. Axefords are going to go down, and then it's just going to be the Vauxhalls as the front line. And just Vauxhall front line against like 3 players worth of frontline stuff, that's going to be a losing fight. Like, you can pick a 1v1 and do favorably with Vauxhalls, but these guys paid a lot for their missile backpack. As we see here, they have 4 damage control teams and no resource. Star going with the callouts there. Yeah, so that's a dead ship, like I said. Just, there was way too much fighting against there. Torpedo attempt is being made, but it's too little too late against a mostly intact frontline vessel. It does tank like a hit or two, so the storage gets a little bit damaged. Most of that getting eaten by the structure in the ship, so eventually it will structure break. Now the Vauxhalls coming up here. Vauxhalls, unfortunately, a little too close for comfort here as we look at the ranges. That's like 3 kilometers, so yeah, you're in range for like plasma and 100 mil, and you really don't want to be, especially since you can't really dodge, and 100 mil does just pen your armor now, so yeah. Anna's finding itself in a bad position. They invested too much for a cap that they did not get. They then tried to invest a bunch of their frontline to secure it. It was a case that they capped it, but if you pay for a cap, you have to hold it, and they massively overinvested, bleeding way too much stuff in order to secure that. So, taking a look, we can see the carrier continue to do carrier stuff as it launches and lands more of its fighters and bombers and things. A couple of these SDMs are going to be trying to see off Arbiter Flight. Arbiter Flight looking around the map here. They have R1 Perch rocket pods. They are looking for something down here they can brawl with. They've got a bunch of these missiles as well. They've got Wake type and Act type, so that's a nice little way to like keep in some of your missiles. You can't just go with pure Act, but I mean, hey, Wake is kind of nice if the enemy runs away from you. You smack him with one of those.
The enemy secured zone comment.
Right, so I don't know why I said enemy, as if I was on team 1, but OSP has secured themselves the C-cap here. The ANS team has been pretty much bled out of all assets. Biff Motron down here is down to just like a Sarissa. This thing I don't think has enough power to... okay, maybe it does have enough power if it turns off its radar to like run the Sarissa and the gun, but yeah, Biff is basically out of the game. Bunyan's over here has lost all of their forward assets. Skooma and Joy is out of the game, so realistically this is now like a 4v2, so yeah, not looking that great. Weeble Knievel over here is going to be suffering a lot as they're eating those shots into the broadside. There's no restore, so what you see is what you get. CIC has been knocked. There is no backup on this thing. It's just a matter of time before this thing gets popped twice, so that will be that. Yeah. Plays to rush the liners and try and force them to turn. Yeah, they're trying to do the thing where like liners are not the fastest at turning, so they can try and like get around the front side and engage there, but the problem is that just due to the distances involved, they're eating a whole bunch of return fire that they really cannot survive and like contest with, because again, you've got 4 teams against a liner over here which has 7 teams and like the ability to actually restore stuff. Yeah, jury reactors are a vulnerable target, same with the plasma guns that can get smacked, but yeah, we're gonna see all of these 100 mil guns doing damage that if you were at like a further distance you could orbit dodge away from or just outrange the enemy to begin with. So I gotta say it was ANS's game to potentially win after they gotten like a really big catch up here where Thomas was just getting colossally smacked. OSP did the correct call. They had their support assets flip a losing fight into a winning fight. That Beam Destroyer gets cleaned up. Now we've still got a 3k asset over here, which is going to be just going firing on that. Bunyan's electing to call it GG, recognizing the state of the game. I don't know if Bunyan's got too much done with the carrier here as opposed to the OSP carrier, which Morningwood was piloting, which was doing a lot around the map there, cleaning up light assets and saving their front line. So yeah, that's going to be them saying GG's. I'm going to call that GG as well. Notice the point situation, right? The game, they're saying, is decided even though the points are still pretty even. If the situation was a little more even, where they had, like, say, a number of fleets still active here, as opposed to Arbiter Flight, which is going to eat through, like, all of this shit, then they could potentially hold on to this and win, because, again, the score is still pretty even. It's just that militarily, ANS is down 2 fleets, about to be 3, because I think Bunyan's is pretty much soft-locked over here. They've still got, like, some craft, I think. No, they've just got bombers, so... like, yeah, you get bombers with torpedoes and, like, 2 fighters. So air control was just given pretty much to the OSP and not contested as much as it should have been. You can tax a lot of the OSP stuff in order to levy, like, or You levy an advantage with your 450 Axefords and your 250 Voxels and do a bunch of that. Oh, big sippy time. All right, everyone, let's take a big sippy. That's going to be them punching out, recognizing the state of the game. So a lot of that was won by favorable engagements. ANS took a bad fight, overcommitting onto the C point and not getting it. So they just kept committing more and more assets and bleeding themselves out there. So in a way, it was their own fault, as they needed to decide, is this point worth it? And can we hold on to this point if we pay for it? Walking on a pair of the Axefords like we saw there, not the right call. Instead, better call with this is to take a fleet like Biff has. Take these guys with little gun corvettes and stuff. You get some of these beam destroyers, watching them over. Get a little like gun brick here with Saristas to see off fighters. Take some of that stuff. Wait for your front line to generate an opportunity. If they hadn't sacrificed all of the corvettes and just like kind of skirmish with the enemy like forces up there and not YOLO'd like 3 corvettes to their death, they would have corvettes that could then move on to back cap points. The OSP frontline had to totally rotate over to fight on C point, but then C point just turned it into a, oh shit, we have to throw an Axeford onto this to cap a point, otherwise we're going to fall really far behind, and they paid for it super duper heavily.